Chapter 4 The Keeper of the Keys. Boo! They knock again. Dudley jerked awake. "Where's the cannon?" he said stupidly. There was a crash behind them, and Uncle Vernon came skidding into the room. He was holding a rifle in his hand. Now they knew what it had been in the long, thin package he had brought with him. "Who's there?" he shouted. "I warn you, I'm armed." There was a pause, then smash! The door was hit with such a force that it swung clean off its hinge and with a deafening crash landed flat on the floor. A giant man was standing in the doorway. His face was almost completely hidden by a long, shaggy mane of hair and a wild, tangled beard. But you can make out his eyes, glinting like a black beetle's under all the hair. The giant squeezed his way into the hut, stopping so that his head just brushed the ceiling. He bent down, picked up the door, and fitted it easily back into the frame. The noise of the storm outside dropped a little. He turned to look at them all. "Could make us a cup of tea, huh?" It's not been an easy journey. He strode over the sofa where Dudley sat frozen with fear. "Budge up, you great glump," said the stranger. Dudley squeezed and ran to hide behind his mother, who was crouching and terrified behind Uncle Vernon. "And here's Harry," said the giant. Harry looked up into Fear's wild, shadowy face and saw that the beetle eyes were crinkling a smile. "Last time I saw you, you was only a baby," said the giant. "You look a lot like your dad, but you've got your mother eyes." Uncle Vernon made a funny rapping noise. "I demand that you leave at once, sir," he said. "You're breaking and entering." "Ah, shut up, Dursley, you great prune," said the giant. He reached over the back of the sofa, jerked the gun out of Uncle Vernon's hand, and bent into a knot as easily as if it had been a rubber, and threw it into the corner of the room. Uncle Vernon made another funny noise, like a mouse being trodden on. "Anyway, Harry," said the giant, turning his back on Dursley, "a very happy birthday to you. Got some it for you here. I might to say it on some point, but I'll taste all right. I might have said it on some point, but it will taste all right." From an inside pocket of his black overcoat, he pulled a slightly squashed box. Harry opened it with a trembling finger. Inside was a large sticky chocolate cake with "Happy Birthday, Harry" written on it in green icing. Harry looked up at the giant. He meant to say "thank you," but the word got lost on the way to his mouth, and what he said instead was, "Who are you?" The giant chuckled. "True, I haven't introduced myself. Rubus Hagrid, keeper of the keys and ground at Hogwarts." He held out an enormous hand and shook Harry's whole arms. "What about the tea, then, he said, rubbing his hands together. "I'm not saying to submit stronger if you have got it mind." His eyes fell into the empty grate with a shivered crisp packet in it, and he snorted. He bent down over the fireplace. Then he couldn't see what he was doing. But when he drew back a second later, there was a roaring fire there. It filled the whole damp pit with flickering light, and Harry felt the warmth wash over him as though he sucked into a hot bath. The giant sat back down the sofa, which sagged under his weight, and began talking all sorts of things out of the pocket of his coat: a copper kettle, a squashy package of sausage, a poker, and a teapot, several chipmunks, mugs, and a bottle of some amber liquid, which he took a swig before starting to make tea. Soon the hut was full of sound and smell of sizzling sausage. Nobody said a thing while the giant was working, but he slid the first 6 fat, juicy, slightly burnt sausages from the poker. Dudley fidgeted a little. Uncle Vernon said sharply, "Don't touch anything he give you, Dudley." The giant chuckled darkly. "Your great pudding of son don't need fatting any more, Dursley. Don't worry." He passed the sausage to Harry. He was so hungry he had never tasted anything so wonderful, but he still couldn't take his eyes off the giant. Finally, as nobody seemed about to explain anything, he said, "I'm sorry, but I still don't really know who you are." The giant took a gulp of tea and whipped his mouth with the back of his hand. "Call me Hagrid," he said. "Everyone does. And like I told you, I'm keeper of keys at Hogwarts. You know all about Hogwarts, of course." No," said Harry. Hagrid looked shocked. "Sorry?" said Harry quickly. "Sorry?" barked Hagrid, turning to stare at the Dursley. who shrank back into shadow. It's them as they should be sorry. I know you weren't getting your letter, but I never thought you wouldn't even know about Hogwarts, for crying out loud. Did you never wonder where your parents learned it all? A what? Asked Harry. A what? Harry thundered. Now, wait just 1 second. He had leaped to his feet in his anger. He seemed to fill the whole hut. The Dursley were covering against the wall. Do you mean to tell me, he growled at Dursley, that this boy know nothing about anything? Harry thought this was going a bit far. He had been to school. After all, his marks weren't bad. I know something, he said. I can. You do math and stuff. But Hagrid simply waved his hand and said, about our world. I mean your world, my world, your parents' world. What world? Hagrid looked as if he was about to explode. Dursley! He boomed. Uncle Vernon, who had gone very pale, whispered something like Mimble Wimple. Hagrid started wildly at Harry. But you must know about your mom and dad, he said. I mean, they're famous. You're famous. What? My mom and dad weren't famous, were they? You don't know. Hagrid ran his finger through his hair, fixing Harry with a bewildered stare. You don't know what you are, he said finally. Uncle Vernon suddenly found his voice. Stop, he commanded. Stop right there, sir. I forbid you to tell the boy anything. A braver man than Vernon Dursley would have quailed under the furious look Hagrid now gave him. When Hagrid spoke, his every syllable trembled with rage. You never told him what was in the letter Dumbledore left for him. I was there. I saw Dumbledore leave it. Dursley, and you've kept it all from him all these years. Kept what from me? Said Harry eagerly. Stop! I forbid you! Yelled Uncle Vernon in panic. Aunt Petunia gave a gasp of horror. Go boil your head, both of you, said Hagrid. Harry, you're a wizard. There was a silence inside the hut. Only the sea and the whistling wind could be heard. I'm a what? Gasped Harry. A wizard, of course, said Hagrid, sitting back down on the sofa, which groaned and sank even lower. And a thumping good, and I'd say once you have trained up a bit, with a mum and dad like yours. What else would you be? And I reckon it's about time you read your letter. Harry screeched out his hand at last to take the yellowish envelope, addressed in emerald green to Mr. Harry Potter, the floor hut on the rock, the sea. He pulled out the letter and read. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Headmaster Albus Dumbledore, Order of Merlin, First Class Grand Sword of Trifwortlock, Supreme Mugwump, International Convent of Wizard. Dear Mr. Potter, we are pleased to inform you that you have a place at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find enclosed a list of all necessary books and equipment. Term begin on 1 September. You await your owl by no later than 31 July. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall, Deputy Headmistress. Question exploded inside Harry. Head like firework, and he couldn't decide to ask first. Which to ask first. After a few minutes, he stammered, What does it mean they await my owls? Galloping orange, they remind me, said Hagrid, clapping her hand to his forehead with enough force to knock over a cart horse. And from yet another pocket inside his overcoat, he pulled an owl, a real-life, rather ruffled-looking owl, a looking quill and roll of parchment. With his tongue between his teeth, he scribbled a note which Harry could read upside down. Dear Mr. Dumbledore, given Harry's letter, taking him to buy his new things tomorrow. Weather's horrible. Hope you're well, Hagrid. Hagrid rolled up the note, gave it to the owl, which clamped it in its beak, went to the door and threw the owl out of the storm. Then he came back and sat down as though this was normal as talking to the telephone. Harry realized his mouth was open and closed it quickly. Where was I? Said Hagrid, but at the moment Uncle Vernon, still a shin-faced but looking very angry, moved into the firelight. He's not going, he said. Hagrid grunted. I'd like to see a great muggle like you to stop him, he said. A what? Said Harry, interested. A muggle, said Harry. It's what we call non-magic folk like them. And it's your bad luck you grew up in a family of the biggest muggle I've ever laid eyes on. We swore when we took him and we put a stop to that rubbish, said Uncle Vernon. Swore would stamp it out of him. Wizard indeed. You knew? Said Harry. You knew I'm A wizard? Knew? Shrieked Aunt Petunia suddenly. Knew? Of course we knew. How could you not be my dratted sister, being that she was... Oh, she got a letter just like that and disappeared off to that school and came home every holiday with a pocket full of frocks, spawn turning teacups into rat. I was only one who saw her for what she was, a freak. But my mother and father, oh no, it was Lily this and Lily that. But for my mother and my father, oh no, it was Lily. And that they were proud of having a witch in the family. She stopped, draw a deep breath, and then went on ranting on. It seemed she had been wanting to say all this for years. Then she met that porter at school and they left and got married and had you, of course. I know you'd be just the same, just as strange, just as abnormal. And then, if you please, she went and got herself blown up and we got landed with you. Harry had gone very white. As soon as he found his voice, he said, blown up. You told me they died in a car crash. Car crash? Roared Hagrid, jumping up so angrily that the Dursleys scudded back to their corner. How could a car crash kill Lilies and James Potter? It is outrage, a scandal. Harry Potter, not knowing his own story than every kid in the world, know his name. But why? What happened? Harry asked urgently. The anger faded from Hagrid's faces. He looked suddenly anxious. I never expected this, he said, a low, worried voice. I had no idea when Dumbledore told me there might be trouble getting hold of you. How much you didn't know, Harry. I don't know if I'm the right person to tell you, but you can't go off to Hogwarts not knowing. He threw a dirty look at the Dursley. Well, it's best you know as much as I can tell you, mind. I can't tell you everything. It's a great mystery, parts of it. He sat down, stared into the fire for a few seconds, and then said, it began, I suppose, with a person called, but it's incredible, you know, his name. Everyone in our world know. Who? Well, I don't like saying the name if I can't help it. No one does. Why not? Gulping coarsely. Harry, people are still scared. Blimey, this is difficult. See, there was a wizard who went bad. As bad as you could go. Worse than worse. His name was... Harry gulped, but no word came out. Could you write it down? Harry suggested. Nah, I can't spell. All right, Voldemort. Hagrid shuddered. Don't make me say it again. Anyway, this wizard, about 20 years ago, started looking for follower. Got him too. Some were afraid. Some just wanted a bit of his power, 'cause he just getting himself power, all right. Dark days. Harry didn't know who to trust, didn't dare to get friendly with strange wizards or witches. Cheerily, things happened. He was taking them over, of course. Some stood up to him, and he killed them horribly. One of the only safe place left was Hogwarts. Reckoned Dumbledore the only one, you know, who was afraid, of course. Didn't dare try talking to his school, not just them, anyway. Now, your mom and dad were as good as witches and wizards as I ever knew. Head boy and girls at Hogwarts in their days. Suppose the mystery is why you know who never tried to get him on his side before. Probably no one too close to Dumbledore to want anything to do with the dark side. Maybe he thought he could push himself. Maybe he just wanted him to get out of the way. All anyone knows is he turned up in the village where you all was living. On Halloween 10 years ago, you was just a years old. He came to your house and Hagrid suddenly pulled a very dirty spotted handkerchief and blew his nose with a sound like a vertigo. Sorry, he said, but it's that sad. You knew your mom and dad and nicer people you couldn't find anyway. You know who killed him, and this is the real mystery of the thing. He tried to kill you too. He wanted to make a clean job of it, I suppose, or maybe just like killing by then, but he couldn't do it. Never wonder now you got that mark on your forehead. Now, that was no ordinary cut. That's what you get when a powerful evil curse touches you. Take care of your mom and dad and your house, even, but it didn't work on you, and that's why you're famous, Harry. No one ever lived after decided. No one ever lived after he dies. Decided to kill them. No one except you, and he'll kill some of the best witch and wizard of the age. The Muckle Cannons, the Bone, the Prince, and you was only a baby, and you lived. Something very painful was going on in Harry's mind. As Hagrid's story came to close, he saw again the blinding flash of green light more clearly than he had ever remembered it before, and he remembered something else for the first time in his life: a high, cold, cruel laugh. Hagrid was watching him sadly. Took you from the ruined house myself, on Dumbledore's orders. Brought you to say this lot of old tosh, said Uncle Vernon. Harry jumped. He had almost forgotten that the Dursley were there. Uncle Vernon certainly seemed to have got back his courage. He was glaring at Hagrid, and his fists were clenched. Now you listen here, boy, he said. I accept there's something strange about you. Probably nothing. A good beating would have been clear. And as for all this about your parents, well, they were weirdos. No denying it. And the world better off with them, in my opinion. As for all they got, getting mixed up with these wizarding types, just what I expected. Always knew they would become the sticky end. But the moment Hagrid leapt from the sofa and drew a battered pink umbrella from inside his coat, pointing this at Uncle Vernon like a sword, he said, "I'm warning you, Dursley. I'm warning you. One more word. In danger of being speared on the end of an umbrella by a bearded giant." Uncle Vernon's courage failed again. He flattened himself against the wall and fell silent. "That's better," said Hagrid, breathing heavily and sitting back down the sofa, which this time sagged right down to the floor. Harry, meanwhile, still had questions to ask, hundreds of them. But what happened to sorry, I mean, you know who. Good question, Harry. Disappear. Vanish. Same night he tried to kill you. Make you even more famous. That's the biggest mystery, see? He was getting more powerful. Why would he go? Some say he died. God swallowed me, in my opinion. You know, if he had enough human left in him to die. Some say he's still out there, biding his time, but I don't believe it. People who was on his side came back to ours. Same of them came out of kind of trance. Don't reckon they could have done if he was coming back. Most of them reckon he's still out there somewhere, but lost his power. Too weak to carry on. Cause something about you finished him, Harry. There was something going on that night he can't count it on. I don't know that it was. No one does, but something about you stumped him, all right. Hagrid looked at Harry with a wrath and respect blazing in his eyes, but Harry, instead of feeling pleased and proud, felt quite sure there had been a horrible mistake. A wizard. Him? How could he possibly be? He would spend his life being clouded by Dudley and bullied by Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon. If he was really a wizard, why hadn't they been turned into warty toads every time they tried to lock him in his cupboard? If he once defeated the greatest sorcerer in the world, how come Dudley had been always able to kick him around like a football? Hagrid, he said quietly, I think you must have been a mistake. I don't think I can be a wizard. To his surprise, Hagrid chuckled. Not a wizard, Never made thing happen when you was scared or angry. Harry looked into the fire. Now he came to think about it. Every odd thing that ever made his aunt and uncle furious with him had happened when Harry, had been upset or angry, chased by Dudley gang, had been somehow found himself out of their reach. Dreading going to school with that ridiculous haircut, he managed to make it grow back, and the very last time Dudley had hit him, he got his revenge without even realizing he was doing it. Hadn't he set a boa constrictor on him? Harry looked back at Hagrid, smiling, and saw that Hagrid was positively beaming at him. See, said Hagrid, Harry Potter, not a wizard. You wait. He'll be right famous at Hogwarts. But Uncle Vernon was going to give it without a fight. Haven't I told you he's not going? He hissed. He's going to Stonewall High, and he'll grateful for it. I've read those letters, and he need all sort of rubbish, spell book and wand. And if you want to go, a great muggle like you won't stop him, growled Hagrid. Stop Lily and James Porter's son going to Hogwarts? You're mad. His name been down ever since he was born. He's off to the finest school of witchcraft and wizardry in the world. 7 years there, and he won't know himself. He'll be the youngest of his own sort for a change. until under the greatest headmaster Hogwarts ever had, almost stumbled. I'm not paying for some cracked old fool to teach a magic trick, yelled Uncle Vernon, and he had finally gone too far. Hagrid seized his umbrella and rolled it over his head. Never, he thundered, insult Albus Dumbledore in front of me. He brought the umbrella, switching down through the air to point at Dudley. There was a flash of violet light, a sound like firecracker, a sharp squeal, and the next second Dudley was dancing on the spot with his hand clasped over his fat bottom, howling in pain. When he turned his back on them, Harry saw a curly pigtail poking through a hole in his trouser. Uncle Vernon roared, pulling Aunt Petunia and Dudley into the other room. He cast one last terrified look at Hagrid and slammed the door behind them. Hagrid looked at his umbrella and stroked his beard. "Shin lost me a temper," he said ruefully, "but it didn't work out anyway. Meant to turn him into a pig, but I suppose he was so much like a pig anyway, there wasn't much left to do." He cast a sideways look at Harry under his bushy eyebrow. "Be grateful if you didn't mention that to anyone at Hogwarts," he said. "I'm not supposed to do magic. Strictly speaking, I wasn't allowed to do a bit of to follow you and get your letter and your one stuff. One of the reasons I was so keen to take on the job." "Why aren't you supposed to do magic?" asked Harry. "Oh, well, I was at Hogwarts myself, but I got expelled. To tell the truth, in my third year, they snapped my wand into half and everything. But Dumbledore let me stay as a gamekeeper. Great man, Dumbledore." "Why were you expelled?" "It's getting late, and we've got lots to do tomorrow," said Hagrid loudly. "Gotta get up to town. Got all your book and that." He took off his thick black coat and threw it off to Harry. "You can keep under that," he said. "Don't mind if it wrinkled a bit. I think I'll still got a couple of dormice in one of the pocket."